the aim of the research for us was to understand young people's perceptions of and exposure to e-cigarette advertising, and the output was to co-produce a youth advocacy video with the young people about e-cigarette advertising. So academically, I actually am a forensic toxicologist, so I did my Masters in Forensic Toxicology at University of Glasgow, and it was during my Masters dissertation that I sort of came across the topic of e-cigarettes, and we were looking at it from a nicotine concentration from a sort of lab basis, and it kind of allowed me to sort of delve into that literature and sort of what was e-cigarettes about, and they were quite new at that time, so there was a lot of kind of controversy around the world, and it kind of dipped my toe in the water. And then the PhD came up at the Social and Public Health Sciences unit looking at e-cigarette policies, so it felt like a very natural step from what I had been doing into sort of a wider area of e-cigarettes. And then at that point I started to explore the role and use of evidence in e-cigarette policies to try and understand, we've got this one area and how all around the world have we come to very different conclusions, but we've got the access to the same evidence, and what's the difference and why have we got these differences, and how does context play into that. And it was during my PhD that the research grant came up exploring young people's engagement and understanding of e-cigarettes, particularly on social media, and the role that plays into their perceptions and understandings of the project. So again, it felt like a very natural step forward. And I've always had a keen interest in young people to understand how they see the world and how their voices are represented in decisions that are ultimately made to protect them. Even since I finished my PhD, I started that in 2017, and it wasn't something that youth vaping seemed to come up in the policy documents that I was reviewing. It was more the Surgeon General's report that really highlighted youth vaping, and they were seeing this as a problem. And then a paper was published in our department in 2016 that highlighted that this could become a problem and young people were thinking about it. And now, even just as I was going through my PhD, it started to kind of become a bit of a problem. And then when I moved into this research grant, it became really apparent that this was now a problem within the UK and in Scotland. And even since then, the uptick of youth vaping is astonishing, and their understandings of the products and how they're being marketed to and advertising to really just takes a step back for me. Just the difference from maybe 6 months to a year of what we're seeing within the young people themselves. We're very interested in that 11 to 16 age group. 17 we felt kind of was maybe ticking a wee bit more into sort of young adult, into that 18 being able to buy them, whereas we found that 11 to 16 is your sort of primary school to academy was a really good age group, and we've done research with young people that age before, so we thought it really captured a unique perspective, that sort of maybe a slightly more innocence of primary school versus 16-year-olds having a bit more control of their life, being able to vote, being able to get a house and things like that. And we've always been very interested in sort of the social demographic of the young people that we recruit, and the vaping status and the smoking status as well are very important to capture, because they all have different perspectives. Even if someone vapes, they could still have the same perspective as someone who doesn't, so we felt it was really important to capture all that. So we had 33 young people, so it was a multi-stage project where first of all we ran workshops with the young people to understand their what they kind of thought about vaping, to sort of establish a sort of groundwork with us as researchers and with them. So we had 33 young people involved in that stage across 3 workshops, and also it was to kind of get an idea about what they thought about the video and what they wanted to see within the video, because it was co-produced. We were very strong-minded on that we wanted the young people to be heavily involved in that. And the second stage was photo elicitation, where we asked these young people to go out and take photos of e-cigarette marketing and advertising they saw in their daily lives, which included on social media, because young people now that's a predominant, where they spend predominantly a lot of their time. So we got 32 participants' photos, and then in the third stage, which was focus groups with the young people, we had 28 young people involved in that stage. So we'd lost a few along the way due to various different reasons. But we still had a great number from the 33 down to 28, where we had a series of focus groups, and the aim of that was for us to speak to the young people about the photos they had taken, because we wanted it just to be take photos of UC of e-cigarette advertising, and that's what we'd left it at. We wanted to understand why the young person had taken that photo, what it meant to them, were they influenced to then visit that shop because they had seen that. And one thing that came out from that part of it was what the young people described as a wall of vapes. So the shops were advertising vapes, displays. It was the vape containers were actually used as a display. So that was something that really struck us from that part of the research. And then the fourth stage was the actual video development. So we had a group, about 6 young people that went forward to then help create the video, and we had two young people voice the video, the 2 characters within the video, which we thought was really important for the young people to do. And the words that the young people actually say are quotes from the focus groups, although it might not be theirs, it is their exact words that they have used, and we've taken direct quotes. Again, we thought that was really important to do that, because there's no one better to say it than the young people themselves. The young people, when we asked them out just generally, where do you see advertising for e-cigarettes, and it was, we see it all the time and we see it everywhere. And they see it on social media, they see it when they're out and about. Predominantly it was the displays of vapes that we got a lot of photos about, and we saw them talking a lot about these walls of vapes, whether it be in the window or it's in the shop themselves. They spoke a lot about posters that they would see on doors going into local shops or corner shops, like buy 3 for 2. Some of them were made by the shop owners themselves, they weren't sort of official ones from like Vipe or things like that. It was just, for me, really astonishing what the young people were saying and how clued up they were to these adverts being designed for them. They spoke about the bright colours and the use of language, even just the colours with the vapes to advertise them themselves. So they would maybe be a black background, and the vape colour was, the design of the vape was used to stand out on the advert, but also in the way that the adverts were written. So 3 for £20. The 3 and the 20 were in red writing, and the other parts were in black because red was more attractive. And this was children 12 years old picking up on this, which for me, when I was reflecting on the data and writing up my notes, it was just like, this is really striking that they're picking up on things that adults might know and might not know. These kids are really savvy, and the advertising for me just, they even picked up on it's targeted at them. When you say, so who do you think these are designed for? Oh, they're for us. They're designed for us. The flavourings as well, the colours of the vapes being used to correlate with the flavours. And some of them even described about the flavours, like what's lightning bolt? You know what strawberry is, but what's lightning bolt? Where does that come from? And one young person spoke about that there was a Red Bull one, and that their friends were telling them about it because they drink Red Bull, but their friends don't vape. So even young children that don't vape are still being clued up on these flavourings and sending them to their friends that do vape. So even from the start of the project to the end with the discussion groups, it was just, for me, really striking what these young people were saying, and important to get it in the video, but also in the academic papers for us academics to share with other people and get those quotes out there. The young people speak about the industry as being this almost like a vape god, and you can see in the video this sort of figure coming down and projecting lightning bolts and changing the way that shops advertise things, or what shops look like outside for these industries to advertise their products. So if young people are picking up on that and they're seeing they're being targeted, we as policymakers and researchers have that platform to address this. We need to be doing something about it, and we wouldn't allow the tobacco industry to do that, although there's very much a blurring of the lines of the two industries and they're now very much connected. But if you took away the vape and replaced it with a smoking product, we wouldn't allow that to happen. We've put a series of policies in place. We've now got cigarettes covered, we've got the plain packaging. Yes, vapes, there's contention around smoking cessation, but if the goal is to protect young people, we need to do something about it, whether that is putting them behind the counter changing the packaging, reducing the number of flavours, which were all things that are in the recent consultation. Something needs to be done to protect the young people, because when we take a step back, it's the young people that's saying this. This isn't me saying this. I'm using my platform and my voice to move it up the political agenda for these young people, because the video is, you see, is co-produced by young people. It is their voices, it's their quotes. So I'm not saying anything they're not. So something needs to be done to protect them, because we've had young people say, I don't want to vape, but I don't know how to stop. But it's the pretty colours that make me want to do it. I want to have one to match all my outfits. And as we as a society as well need to think about how can we break these barriers down to stop young people vaping, because we now do have a problem of young people vaping. Maybe 5-10 years ago we didn't, and we wanted to stop them, but we've now got young people vaping, and how do we help them get off that? That's now a new problem that we've got. How do we support young people to not vape? What's the next step for that?